Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 11 of the College Football Game Day Show. You're witnessing perhaps history on the show. All three gentlemen here, our teams are ranked boys. I think it's going to be a good week for all of us. Andy, I'll start with you. Took a loss, but still ranked, and you still control your own destiny in the Big Ten there.
Right. So it definitely stung to take that loss against a Michigan State team that, had a bunch of guys suspended, has really struggled on the year, but credit them, for coming into Champaign and getting the win. The Illinois really didn't deserve to win. It was another felt pretty similar to the Indiana game where there were just too many mistakes they were unable to overcome. The 0 for 4 on fourth down, and I love Chase Brown. Obviously, he's the leading rusher in the nation, but defenses are going to kind of figure that out on fourth and short. You might need to do something a little different if they're just going to bring the entire kitchen sink at this guy. A couple unfortunate fumbles, a fucking 6-yard punt by Hugh Robertson that hit off the lineman. That was really unfortunate. I think somebody else kicked like a 2-yard punt, so it wasn't the worst punt of the weekend, but still, it wasn't a good feeling in Champaign on Saturday. It was a really huge crowd, one of the biggest they've had in a while. So, of course, they lose, just classic Illinois fashion. But they're still ranked, like I said last week. I'm just happy to be here. Still just happy to be here. You got to beat Purdue this week. You still control your own destiny. You can still go to the Big Ten championship game and get to Indy and maybe cause some chaos. Who knows? But it's still a great season nonetheless. Being only 2 losses at this point is something we haven't experienced here in quite a while. So you got to be happy with what they've done as a whole. But you can still look at some things they did last Saturday and be pretty upset. But anyway, I'm doing okay now. I guess I'm over it. Just beat Purdue this weekend and fucking get on with it.
Get right back on track. I love it. Tom, big win for you guys. Like you just said before the show, clean sweep. We all picked the upset here. None of us trusted Clemson. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good because apparently none of the experts trusted us. Maybe they should be watching our show a little bit more. I'm doing excellent. We beat Clemson by 3 touchdowns, didn't give up a single point until the fourth quarter. Deja vu of 2020, fans storming the field without getting criticized for it this time, post-game. And, yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm happy, and I'm happy for our freshman safety, Benjamin Morrison, getting 2 picks in that game. One off of Kubelik and then the other off of DJ Ukulele, the most overrated quarterback in college football. So I'm going in with a bang there. And one thing I do want to say, and this is part 1 to what I talked about pre-show. Brian, I'm going to one-up you. You said first time in the history all 3 of our teams are ranked. Get this. Notre Dame's ranked 20th, Illinois is ranked 21st, and UCF is ranked 22nd. We are in chronological order 20 through 22. That is also history, and we may never see that again. So just know that. Tonight's show could be a one-time and only-time thing.
It is, and that means it's a race to the finish line for who gets bragging rights at the end of the season because we're all packed up, like you just said. But yeah, speaking of the other games, some other teams that might have got some upsets, other games that might have caught your eye. We'll get into the weekly recap really quick. Andy, what games besides the Illinois game were you watching last week?
I mean, it's LSU Alabama. I think is the clear answer here. The Tigers, Brian Kelly and that awful fake accent, take down mighty Nick Saban. And the Tide was it double overtime, or was it double, or was it just?
I think it was the very first
Overtime. I mean, Daniels looked awesome for them, and they knock Bama out of playoff contention. I will say I saw a Citrus Bowl prediction that had Illinois versus Alabama, and please don't do that to us. Please don't, please. But that definitely caught my eye with a huge win for LSU. It's a 2-loss team that might actually have a chance at the college football playoff. You could definitely make a case for them. Bama's out. What else caught my eye? I'm gonna let Tom go because I'm sure he's got something way better. But yeah, LSU over Bama was really the story of the weekend for me.
Yeah. All right, Tom, hit us with your games.
As Yanni said, LSU, Bama, I think the most alarming thing from that game was that Bryce Young completed under 50% of his passes. Shout out to B.J. Ojolari, Harold Perkins, and that defense stepping up big. And then Georgia beating Tennessee 27-13. That's, my statement game of the week because Georgia has proven that they are still the best team in college football right now, ever since last year. Hendon Hooker was held to 0 touchdown passes. He went from a potential Heisman winner to being out of the discussion potentially. 18 rushes for 17 yards for him as well. Horrible. Stetson Bennett looks like an all-pro compared to Hendon Hooker. And then the Georgia Bulldog defense has 6 sacks. So you tell me, Who's competing with Georgia this year? The answer, nobody.
Yeah, I mean, those are definitely the two ones I think that probably stuck out to most people. Tom, I appreciate you didn't want to gloat too much about the whooping you guys put on Clemson. I just want to get the score out there in case anyone didn't see it, 35-14. So Tom was not kidding about that game, about DJ
Yeah.
just not being very good at all, very overrated, as you said. And then, yeah, Tennessee just getting absolutely stomped by Georgia. I think even the score itself, 27-13, that looks kind of close. I think that was even a little deceptive because Georgia just ran all over that Tennessee offense, and Hendon Hooker couldn't get anything going. Tennessee couldn't get anything going. So, yeah,
Did you see the Georgia players roasting Hendon Hooker on Instagram?
no,
He like one of the Georgia players posted something, obviously talking shit after that beatdown, and Hooker said something like, "Oh, we're gonna get you next time around," and they're all like, "What do you mean next time around? You're old as hell, bro. There ain't gonna be no next time. We know you're not gonna be there next year." And somebody called him Unk, and that just one college football player calling another college football player Unk is pretty funny. I mean, Hendon Hooker, I think, is 25. 24, 25, so he is pretty on the older side for a college football player. But yeah, no, I saw that on Instagram and definitely laughed at that.
this is pretty good. I thought another thing. I'll just wrap up the Tennessee thing because I have no other games that really were good. But he's now signed an NIL deal. I don't know if you guys saw this with French's Mustard.
Yeah,
And because the NIL deal is like there has to be some give and take, the take that he's giving back to French's is they're going to be giving away or selling autographed bottles of mustard. So that's where your money's going, Tennessee Booster Collective, to sign bottles of French's mustard. But anyways, we'll move it to our first segment of the week. We're going. The grass is always greener. We have two teams here, two coaches. We had some laughs at the beginning of the season, maybe some tears from Notre Dame fans and LSU fans early. But both teams are looking extremely nice right now with their new coaches. Obviously, Brian Kelly, his time was up at Notre Dame. LSU snapped him up, and Notre Dame promoted Marcus Freeman to head coach. Tom, I think I'm going to start with you on this one. In the long run, which program do you think is going to be better off here? Like I said, early on, didn't look great. But as I've said a few weeks before, it's growing pains, and that applies to both of these teams. And now they look really good. Brian Kelly just pulled off a huge win against Alabama. Something he didn't do at Notre Dame, and Marcus Freeman pulling off some incredible ranked wins at Notre Dame already.
Right. By the way, I love the title of this segment. The grass is always greener. Definitely love to see that. Look, both coaches deserve a lot of credit. Marcus Freeman deserves a lot of credit. Notre Dame really didn't have much of a choice to make with who their next head coach would be. Both schools will be happy. In the long run, I think Notre Dame is better off, but right now it's clearly LSU. Marcus Freeman is 36, and he already has wins over BYU, Syracuse, and Clemson. Granted, they also have losses to Marshall and Stanford, but to be honest, guys, the Marshall loss kind of gets put in the rear view mirror now with this win over Clemson. It sort of eliminates that, in my opinion, because this season has now turned into a chapter, into two different chapters, I should say. And Marcus Freeman, you have to give him a chance. Right now, he's still dealing with Kelly's recruits. This is a guy who was thrown into the head coaching spot way sooner than he would have ever thought, way sooner than any of us would have ever thought. It's growing pains, guys. It is clearly growing pains. You have to give this guy at least another 2 to 3 years. Once Freeman's recruits become upperclassmen, then you can make the judgment on this guy. Then I think we're really going to see Notre Dame flourish again. I mean, you compare this to Brian Kelly, who is 61 with 270 career wins. That's why I say right now it's better for LSU. Kelly has the better resume, obviously. He's 25 years older than Marcus Freeman. He has experience. He has life experience on him. So that's the answer to the question. But this is where I go on my rant of the show. And, I'm going to get a little emotional here about this. Notre Dame fans who still hate – don't get me wrong, I love Marcus Freeman. I love him as a head coach. I think he's great. I think he's going to be great. But Notre Dame fans who still hate on Brian Kelly, stop it. Stop it now. This guy gave 12 years of his life to Notre Dame. I grew up into the Notre Dame fandom. An Irish Catholic himself, and Brian Kelly, took this team to the national title game, multiple college football playoff appearances. I like Freeman a lot. I did not love Brian Kelly's exit. But the hate needs to stop. Put yourself in Brian Kelly's shoes, Notre Dame fans. I'm talking to you. What would you do? What would you have done in that situation? Would you have taken the job at LSU for all that more money, especially if you're 60, 61 years old and you're not going to be coaching that much longer? You're not going to have opportunities like this. What would you do? Would you stay at Notre Dame or would you take the job at LSU? It seems like a no-brainer financially wise. I think morally wise, Kelly would have preferred to have stayed at Notre Dame, which is why it was such a tough decision for him. You can be upset that Brian Kelly left and left the way that he did, but you can still root for him as the head coach for LSU and not be a sorry-ass, butthurt fan. Both can be true. Both can be true. All Notre Dame fans should still be rooting for Brian Kelly with LSU. I am super happy for him that he beat Alabama. He finally did what he set out to do. He accomplished his mission in his first year as the head coach of the Tigers. Stop it, Notre Dame fans. Knock it off.
I love the passion. Andy, on your side, we get a golf clap. I love it. From your side of things, obviously we're both neutrals, and we're watching these develop separately. Who do you think is going to come out, I guess, better as a program with these two tenures?
For me, this is a really tough question because they're such different programs. Tom can speak to this. I feel like how hard it is to be not like just win games at Notre Dame, but it's a little harder to get into the school. That I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's tough to win at Notre Dame, and we've seen it win, not just win, but I think make it to the playoff and then go from there. We saw their performances in the playoff. They made it there. They didn't necessarily perform when they went up against the likes of some of these programs like an LSU. I know they didn't specifically match up, but I'm talking about SEC programs. Tom's 100% right. You can't blame Brian Kelly for taking the bag when it's dangled out in front of you like that. You can't. Anybody that can sit there, look me in the face and say, "Oh no, I wouldn't have taken $100+ million," is a fucking liar. They just are. As far as answering this question, who's better off in the long run? The thing about the LSU job that's really tough too is that we just saw with the exit of Coach O is they want results and they want them now. They want the last 3 head coaches there have all won national titles for the Tigers. Brian Kelly's a really good coach. I really do. I think he is capable of getting there, and now he's got the resources at LSU. I don't know. As far as the future goes, fuck, man, this is tough because I'm going to say Freeman because he is. I think Tom made the point. He's, 36, 37? He's going to be around longer than Kelly is. I mean, who's to say Kelly doesn't coach until he's 80? Who knows? But I guess I'll say Notre Dame just for the longevity factor of Freeman because I don't think it would shock me more if Kelly lasted longer at LSU than Freeman does at Notre Dame, if that makes sense.
Right, gotcha. Yeah, it's a tough one. As I was trying to rack my brain for segments, and they both got those big wins, I was like, well, this has got to be it, because it is such a tough question. Yeah, for me, I'll start out with kind of like the pros and cons first. So on Notre Dame's side, the pro here is they get, like you just said, Andy, a really young guy who is already a part of the program to take over. It's a start of a new leaf. They gave Kelly 12 years. And especially in modern college football, that's a lot of time. That is a lot of time. So it was, time for change. It kind of worked out that Kelly, he probably saw the paycheck and was like, all right, I got to take this anyway. So, it kind of worked out that way. But the last time Notre Dame had a coach for that long was Lou Holtz back in the 80s, early 90s. And he was only there for 11 years. Lou Holtz is one of the best coaches. I'll defer to Tom on this after I finish the sentence, but I would say he's top 2 coaches they ever had. And I think better than Kelly. They only give him 11 years. They gave Kelly 12 years. So, Tom, would you agree with that assessment? Lou Holtz, probably top 2 coach Notre Dame history?
There's an argument for number 1. Yeah.
Okay, so there
really
you go.
is.
They give him more time than potentially the best coach to ever be at Notre Dame. So, the pro is you get to start a new leaf. It didn't look like he was going to win another title for Notre Dame there. So, I'm perfectly fine with how things shook out there. But my personal opinion remains the same with Freeman as it does with any coach, and that's that, like Tom said, you got to give these guys time. 4 years absolute minimum before you even think about firing them, because they need to get their own recruits in. You need to see, if those recruits trust them, how many are leaving for the transfer portal. That's going to be a big thing in the coming years with the new rules, and just how the guys that they're recruiting turn out for your program. So as far as Notre Dame goes, I think they're in a very good spot here. As far as Freeman goes, on the LSU side, the pro here is, I think, much more for Brian Kelly than it is for LSU. Obviously, they get a good coach. They now get to see Brian Kelly, who did perform at Notre Dame, with more freedom. Notre Dame, Tom, you kind of brought it up. It's, Irish Catholic school. Andy, you said it's very hard to get in there. It is definitely a lot harder than LSU. No offense to people turning out those LSU degrees. But Brian Kelly now has, I would say, 10 times magnitude the amount of freedom to do what he wants. And we just saw that on Saturday. Overtime game against Alabama. First thought that goes through his mind is, fuck it, we're going for 2. This game, this is Saban, this is Alabama. Screw it. Huge rivalry. I just don't think, like, in a place like Notre Dame, everything just seems like so much more structured, the way that they recruit, the academics there to be able to even get in as a player. But at LSU, it's all football, and he just put his balls on the table and said, let's do it. We're going for 2, and he pulls off a win. So Bayou Brian is a new nickname I'm giving Mr. Kelly here. But yeah, as far as long-term, I think it's like dead tie. But like Andy said, I give a slight edge here to Notre Dame because Freeman is so young. But I will say this. I think Brian Kelly gets to the college football championship game. I don't know if they win a title at LSU, but I think at some point he gets them to a title game.
No, they're winning.
There you go.
They're winning.
Write it in ink. LSU with Brian Kelly gets a title, boys and girls. But yeah, I think for both programs, it's perfectly fine. And moving forward, they're both in such a good spot. Moving on to our next segment, we're going to play Let's Go Bowling. We have 3 teams that are on the edge of sneaking into a bowl spot. Some who should probably be there already, and a bit of a surprise pick of a team who I don't think anyone thought was going to have a shot at a bowl game. So starting with the first one, we have Oklahoma. They brought in Brent Venables. They stole our QB out of UCF, who got injured, is back now. They're okay, but they have not qualified for a bowl game yet. Andy, Oklahoma, are they sneaking into bowl game contention?
So I think out of the 3 that we're going to go over here, the Sooners absolutely have the best chance of getting into a bowl game. You look at them right now, they're 5-4. This week they do have to go to Virginia, which Virginia has shown that they play a lot better at home this year than they do on the road. But keep in mind they're also 3-6. So you have 3-6 West Virginia team. You have Oklahoma State the week after for Bedlam, which is always nuts, and then you have Texas Tech, and they only need to win one of those games to go bowling. Oklahoma, I do think they get to 6 wins. I think they go bowling this year.
All right, Tom, Sooners going bowling?
I think so too. Again, 5 wins. They're only 1 off. 2 of the games are on the road, West Virginia and Texas Tech. I think they win one of those, and the fact that they have Oklahoma State at home benefits them. We don't know what the Cowboys QB situation will be because obviously Spencer Sanders did not play last week. So that's something to keep in mind too. Yeah, I think the Sooners are obviously going bowling. I have to think that. Hell, I mean, before the season, I was foolish enough to predict them to be in my college football playoff. So here I am now saying that, yeah, they're probably going to make a bowl game.
To be fair, no one's college football predictions have been worse than Desmond Howard. So I think you're off the hook with that one. Yeah, for me, I think they also go bowling, but I think they lose these next 2 games at West Virginia. West Virginia is just, it is the Florida man of states, is what I'll say. Tommy called me Florida man over the weekend on one of our calls. But West Virginia is just such a wild place. It's at West Virginia. They've been up or down. They're a wishy-washy team, but I think they lose there, and I think they lose to Oklahoma State, and they barely squeak in last week of the season against Texas Tech. But overall, bowling or not, this has, I think, been maybe not a disaster, but well under the representation that they wanted under this new Venables leadership. Next up, we have the surprise team I was talking about, the UConn Huskies. Wow, one of the worst teams year in and year out. Somehow they're pulling off wins. They now have 5. Andy, start with you on this one. Is UConn somehow going to be going bowling this year?
This is tough. I definitely didn't think we'd be talking about UConn potentially making a bowl game at any point on this show. But here we are. They sit at 5-5. They've got number 19 Liberty this week. It is a home game for the Huskies, but Liberty comes in with only 1 loss on the year, and they've been absolutely rolling. They just beat Arkansas last week. Did they? Right?
Liberty, yeah.
Yeah, like holy shit. Huge win for that program. They follow it up next week. They have to go to West Point and play Army. So I mean, it's two tough games for these teams. I know Army's having a little bit of a down year as far as their standards go. I don't think they beat Liberty. I just don't think they have enough. I do think they could beat Army, though. I know at Army's tough, though. I'm gonna say yes. I'm saying Husky Nation, get ready. You're going bowling. You're going 6-6. You're gonna lose to Liberty. You're gonna go on the road and upset Army. I don't know if it'd be an upset technically, but I mean it's fucking Connecticut football. It's been a joke for I don't even know how many years.
Tom, is UConn going bowling?
They're not beating Liberty, right? The question is, can they beat Army and West Point on the road? My answer is no.
Ooh.
They will not be going bowling. I think Army's going to find a way to beat them. And I know Army had some bad losses this year. I know they have, but I've never liked this UConn team. Never did. Never will.
Harsh words from Mr. Scavetta to the
Gutter ball.
to the Uconians. Yeah, for me, I'm going opposite. Just because I love the chaos. It sounds like you really hate the Huskies here, Tom. But the fact that they've been so bad is just I love when this kind of stuff happens. Yeah, I don't think they get the Liberty win. I mean, they're on our card this week, so I won't give too much away. But I think probably not is where I'm leaning. But yeah, at Army, they're going to run the clock down. It's going to be probably very low scoring. We might see UConn get a bowl game because of like a 13-7 win here in the final week of the season. But yeah, obviously that big con, like we said, Oklahoma has 3 chances to get UConn as an independent, only has 2. But we did see this last season, teams scheduling games in that last week that weren't on the schedule before. They're just kind of meeting up like, hey, both of us want to go to a bowl game, let's have a coin flip game for it. So who knows? Maybe the Huskies throw some scrub cupcake team on last week of the season to sneak in there. But yeah, for me, I'm rooting for the Huskies to get in, but I don't know if they do it. And then lastly, the biggest disappointment of the season, they have the toughest path of these 3 teams because they only have 3 wins. They need to win out to get a bowl game. We have Texas A&M. Not going well for Jimbo. Andy, do they pull off 3 wins in a row and go bowling, or is it another gutter ball?
Absolutely not. They are not pulling off 3 wins in a row. I do think they can beat Auburn. Auburn has been a dumpster fire this year, obviously with the firing of Brian Harsin, which honestly was a hire that didn't really make sense to me in the first place. He probably shouldn't have left Boise State. But again, you can't turn down SEC money. You just can't do it. They will kick the shit out of UMass because UMass is UMass. And that's what the SEC does. The second to last week of every season that's when they schedule their extra non-conference game where they just beat up on FCS Southeast or whatever from the old NCAA games. And then they finish with number 7 LSU at home. They are not beating LSU. I have them going 5-7 here. I do think they can beat Auburn. I do think they can beat UMass. I mean, you'd like to think they can beat UMass, but who knows with how awful their season has been. And then I have LSU just stomping the shit out of them the last week of the season.
All right, Tom?
Yeah, I'm with Andy. I think the Auburn game could go either way. Cadillac Williams had his team in a prime spot to win last week. Unfortunately for them, they could not pull it out. I think they're going to be fired up and ready to go. So it could be over for them as soon as this week, especially since they're at Auburn. So with a questionable game there and a for sure loss at LSU or at home against LSU, I don't see it happening. I think they had one impressive game this season. I think it was back in late September. Then they play Arkansas or something like that, or Ole Miss, or I forget who it was, and they just beat them. But yeah, it's not looking good for A&M. Sorry, Jimbo, no bowl game this year.
Yeah, it was Arkansas. They squeaked out a very close win there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I don't think they're going bowling anywhere, or getting close to anywhere to going bowling. I said I think UConn gets in because it's amusing to me, and I think I want to see it for their fans. It'd be hilarious to see UConn in, and for the same types of reasons, I don't want to see Texas A&M going bowling. They've looked absolutely god awful all season. I don't know if there's been a more hyped up team ever. I think I said that in like week 2 or 3, based on like the NIL deals and all the crazy recruiting stuff that was going on. The hype has just been absolutely insane, and they're sitting here with 3 wins. They're losing, I think, 4 more recruits over the past 10 days. They've just lost like the number 2 linebacker in the entire country. He's seen enough finally. 3-6 is apparently not good enough to recruit the number 2 LB in the country. The advantage this week that they have is that they play 3-6 Auburn. But the disadvantage is that They played 3-6 Auburn, whose fans thought it'd be hilarious to again sell out a game this week after not great ticket sale performance because they just want to pound this Texas A&M and Jimbo team into the ground and make them 3-7 instead of 3-6. So who wins the game? I don't know, but it's maybe gonna be the loudest 3-6 game, 3-6 versus 3-6 game of all time. There at Auburn this weekend. They beat UMass, yeah. But do they beat LSU? Come on. Brian Kelly just whooped Alabama in an unexpected win. So no, I don't think Texas A&M is going to end up going bowling. That'll wrap our segment. That'll move us into our shots and chasers. Your roadmap to game day. Andy, I got to start with you on this one. Our noon slot shot of the day. We have Illinois, ranked Illinois, taking on Purdue here. Like I said earlier, Big Ten West. It's in your guys' hand. The Illini have the chance here. Are you guys getting the win this week?
I just want to say we finally made shots and chasers. It feels like we never get put on this, so it's great to be in this elite group. But a huge game for Illinois. It's a bounce back game. It's a game where you try to get the bad taste out of your mouth. You still control your own destiny. Hey, maybe you're not one of the teams that can make the college football playoff now, but you can still make it to a Big Ten championship game for the first time in school history. You can still make yourself feel really good about the season, potentially get a New Year's Six bowl. But you got to win this game. I'm putting a must-win tag on this for Illinois. 6.5-point favorites. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy, just like last weekend, and you're going to have to manage it a lot better. Illinois is going to want to pound the rock with Chase Brown. That's just what they do. He's going to touch the ball 30 to 35 times. They're going to try to get it to Isaiah Williams in space and let him make a play. He had a 61-yard touchdown last week. Look for them to get him involved. I have to see something different from Barry Lunny if they do get that. He's the offensive coordinator. If they do get into those fourth down plays where you absolutely have to have it. They were killing it earlier this year with just quick slants across the middle and actually letting DeVito throw it in those situations, and they kind of got away from it last week, and it really, really hurt them. So you got to limit the mistakes offensively. Defensively, I'm not fucking worried about them. I'm not. Like they're allowing just over 10 points per game. They're second in the country as far as yards go with just over 250. You have Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph on the defensive line that have been absolute menaces all year. I believe Newton's still leading the lead, the NCAA in total quarterback pressures this year. In the back end, you have Devon Witherspoon, who's potential first-round pick, PFF's highest-graded defensive back in college football. You have Sidney Brown at safety, Chase Brown's twin brother, who had an interception last week. Who has been really solid for us for 4 years now. They're going to have to make a play. I'm not worried about the defense. If you talk about Purdue, you have to talk about Charlie Jones. I mean, he is the number one target. They're going to try to force feed him the ball. If you're Illinois, you hope to control the field position, something you weren't able to do last week against Michigan State, and what really killed you. And you hope to take care of the ball and limit the big plays. I do think Illinois wins this game. 6.5. I don't want to say it scares me, but I don't know if I'd touch the spread. I'd probably take the under, to be honest with you. I mean, we know this Purdue offense, they're built on throwing the ball. They want to get the quarterback is God, what's his fucking name?
O'Connell.
O'Connell. Yeah, Aiden O'Connell. God damn. They want to have O'Connell throw it like 50 times a game. Like I said, him and Charlie Jones have a nice connection. I think they were like childhood friends. And Jones transferring in from Iowa this summer has been huge for them. He's been like almost automatic for 100-plus receiving yards all year. But Illinois has to have this game. They want to make this a special season. They want to keep it going. You got to defend your home turf. You got to win the conference games, and hopefully win this one and feel a lot better about yourself going to face Michigan next week. But yeah, I'm taking the Illini. I know I'm biased, but I mean, just look for them to pound the rock with Chase Brown and hopefully let DeVito throw the ball downfield a little bit.
Yeah, so before I go to Tom, I'm going to quickly defend myself. Illinois was on our card for Week 7 against Minnesota. And you should remember that because that's when I got scolded for
I know.
the Chase Brown.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. I do want to give you that. I did remember we were on it like one time. But yeah. Thanks, Brian. Yeah.
Tom, are the Illini rolling over Purdue here?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Andy gave a logical explanation. Despite his Illinois fandom, I don't think there was anything biased there. Now, granted, the Illini are coming off a bad loss to Michigan State, but Purdue is also coming off 2 bad losses to Wisconsin and Iowa, and we all know the shit show going on out in the Midwest with them Hawkeyes. We know Chase Brown is elite, over 1,300 rushing yards on the season. Andy mentioned Isaiah Williams. He might be a future NFL talent if he keeps this up. Tommy DeVito won't have to do as much as people think in this game. Purdue, their offense plays right into what Illinois wants them to do. Jartavius Martin and Sidney Brown are outstanding defensive backs, combined for 7 picks and 16 passes defended. Aiden O'Connell does love to throw. He also has 10 picks on the season. That's part of the deal you get when you throw the ball 50 times a game, like Andy just said. Charlie Jones, 9 touchdowns, awesome. The X factor for me, though, is can tight end Payne Durham alleviate some of that pressure off of Charlie Jones and Aiden O'Connell. Guy has 41 catches and 4 touchdowns on the season. He's one of the better tight ends in the CFP, but can the defensive line get to the quarterback? Can they get to Tommy DeVito? That's my question. Can Jack Sullivan get there? He's their leader on that pass rush. Is he able to get to Tommy DeVito? My answer to that question is no, not enough. The Paisan plays well. Illinois wins the football game.
Looks like we're going to have another sweep then. I'm going Illinois as well here. You guys have gone up against 3 of the more competent defenses in the Big Ten so far, and I know everyone wants to talk about Chase Brown, but not even just in those games against those good Big Ten defenses, but in the entire season, Tommy DeVito only has 2 interceptions. So while Looney might not be calling the best plays right now, at least I think you can trust Tommy DeVito to know the game plan and not want to make any mistakes. And he's doing pretty well with that, relatively mistake-free. And the last interception he threw was week 3, is what I have written down. So correct me if I'm wrong, but he's been on a pretty good run.
He's been really good at taking care of the ball. His completion percentage is like crazy high too. It's just more so like fumbles is what has hurt them as far as taking care of the ball.
Yeah, and like you said, on that completion percentage, 4th highest in the nation. I can't remember the 3 above him, but I think it was like C.J. Stroud, Jake Hayner out of Fresno State, and someone else who was like, it might have been Hendon Hooker. So like 2 Heisman candidates in there above him, and that's about it. Yeah, and then just quickly on Chase Brown, leads the nation rushing. That's all I need to say. On Purdue's side of the ball, with the same thing, their leading rusher, Devin Mockabee, I think is his name, barely has half that yardage. So they do like to use him close down to the goal line. He's got 6 touchdowns in the times that they don't have O'Connell throwing the ball, which is quite rare. But he can get into the end zone there when they need him to. Win here should put the Big Ten title game into Illinois' hands. So they all know that. They know that this has been a phenomenal season, and I think they're going to want to close out. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker over everyone if they beat Purdue. I think someone on like the college football Reddit posted some insanely ridiculous way that Northwestern can get in, but it requires the most ridiculous string of games to go in the perfect order, perfect way. So that's not going to happen. A win here, Illinois is looking pretty. So Purdue very pass heavy. Braum, like you said, Andy, giving O'Connell like 50 times a game to chuck the ball down the field. But I think Illinois' defense is going to be fine with that. They're ranked first in the nation in yards allowed and I think points per game. So I think the defense is good enough to clean it up, and I think they're going to clean up all the mistakes from last week as well. So Illini get the win here and move up the rankings. And then in our chaser slot, we have Liberty taking on UConn. We talked about UConn earlier. Liberty again. Malik Willis no longer there, but they are ranked again. Hugh Freeze doing big things there at Liberty. Independent matchup here, boys. Andy, who do you think takes it?
Liberty. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about these teams, guys, because I don't. I do know that the Liberty is the 19th ranked team in the country. They have only lost 1 game so far this year. They are. I just feel like they're the better team here. This is a UConn team that is in year 1 under Jim Mora. I don't know if they necessarily have all the pieces in place to beat a ranked team. I know it's at home. That's definitely in their favor. But if you just look at comparing here, you got to stop a Liberty offense that averages 425 plus yards a game. They're really good running the ball with 183 yards a game as well. I just don't know if UConn have enough pieces to stop him. Like I said, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about both these teams because I don't. But just looking at it, comparing the averages from this season, I have to take Liberty in this game. I mean, and you just look at it from the betting line. I mean, Liberty's a 14-point favorite here. I'm going with Liberty.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, remember the Flames blew out BYU and they won at Arkansas last week. That's an SEC team. Running backs Day Hunter and Shedro Lewis have combined for 15 touchdowns on the season. Hunter is my player to watch, though, with those 850 rushing yards. He's incredible. And Demario Douglas is an outstanding wide receiver. over 750 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. Incredible. Also defensively, Durrell Johnson and Dennis Osajidi with 6 sacks on the season. He's a fun player to watch. And my thing with UConn is this. Zion Turner does not impress me that much at the quarterback position. He has his flaws. I think the one thing that can keep UConn in this game is their defense. Unfortunately, I think they're going to be on the field way too much. Jackson Mitchell is among the nation leaders with 108 tackles on the season through 10 games, 4.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 4 fumble recoveries. He's the Iron Man for them defensively. But if he's on the field for 70, 80 plays a game, forget about it. UConn doesn't stand a chance. I like Eric Watts on their front line, but will it be enough? I don't think so. They're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to put themselves in a good position to win this game. Could UConn put up a fight and cover that 14-point spread at home? Possibly. I think that's more of the debate here, guys. But as far as the game goes, yeah, Flames all the way.
Yeah, for me, I'd love to see UConn win here, but I think Liberty just has too much for them. Bennett's taken over for Willis very, very well in that spot. They just picked up their first win ever against an SEC team, beating a pretty good Arkansas team. I know Arkansas has taken some losses just like they did last year after I hyped them up, but they're still a solid squad. So it's an impressive win for them, especially as they're like 14 or 15-point underdog going into that game. So that's an impressive win. Their defense has been exceptional as well. They lead the nation, I didn't know this, in both sacks per game and tackles for loss per game. So it's just, phenomenal on the defensive side of the ball. They have held some very, very good teams, like you said earlier, BYU as well. They've been able to hold them. So phenomenal defense on the side of the Flames. They're also number 8 in turnovers gained. So with 20, I believe it was. UConn almost matches them. They've got 18 interceptions themselves, so the defense is pretty solid. Offense, not so much. They only average 18.5 points per game. The last few games they've been a little bit better, scored over 21 in 3 of the last 4. But yeah, if UConn wants any way at winning, I think we're going to have to witness a massive bum rush with the running attack. They've got 4 running backs with over 50 rushes this season. That's like, those are like Army statistics or anyone else who runs some sort of option. So, and then as well, you said you don't like Zion Turner as QB, but they do let him tuck it and run. So he's the 5th guy on top of that who has over 50 rushes as their QB. Don't think it's going to be enough, for their run game to take over and beat that Liberty defense, which has been so good. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing it. UConn win. I don't think it happens. Fun fact for this game, though, last time these two teams played, Liberty lost 59-0. That was the only time that they played the Huskies. That was in 2005. Since that day, Liberty is 128-76, and UConn is 76 and 128. So same, but different for these two teams since that fateful day. Maybe this will switch it up depending on who wins this game. Moving into 3:30, we have Ole Miss taking on Alabama. This is one of the most fun SEC matchups every year because of the trolling that Lane Kiffin likes to do on Mr. Nick Saban, his old head coach. Andy, is he getting it done with a win, or is Alabama going to crush him again?
It just feels like a very pissed off Alabama and very pissed off Nick Saban team is about to roll into Oxford and potentially roll over the Rebels. The Rebels' run game actually has been pretty awesome this year. Judkins has been incredible. He's averaged 115 yards a game. He's been one of the biggest threats offensively for them. Can Jackson Dart take care of the ball? He is completing 61% of his passes. Has been pretty solid for them. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a close game. I don't know if it's a blowout by any means. You talk about what Bryce Young's been able to do. He's like you talked about, Brian. He's one of the top guys in the nation as far as completion percentage go. I think it's like 63 or 64%. He's got over 2,000 yards on the season. We'll see if Gibbs is able to get loose at all. Any big plays out of him in the running game. Will Anderson Jr., is he going to make a play defensively for Bama? I'm going to go with the Tide. I know this is a home game. They're going to be fired up in the Grove for Ole Miss, but I'm very terrified of a pissed off Alabama team and Nick Saban, so I'm going to go with the Tide.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, Alabama 7-2, number 9 at number 11, Ole Miss 8-1, and Bama's still favored by 12. The Crimson Tide have lost 2 games this year by a combined 4 points. Bryce Young is still a stud. Jahmyr Gibbs is still a stud, 9 combined touchdowns for him. Shakori Brooks and Trayshawn Henderson, those are 2 go-to players for them. Will Anderson Jr. is still the odds-on favorite to be the number 1 overall pick in this year's draft. Don't get yourself confused. And then Kool-Aid McKinstry is one of the best corners in the nation. 12 passes defended on the season. Oh, he also has the coolest name, no pun intended. Absolutely a pun. Anyway, we go to Ole Miss. They just skated by Texas A&M last week by 3. Remember talking about A&M before? Only 3 wins on the season. How the hell does the number 11 ranked team in the country only beat them by 3 points? Right? That's a little bit of a red flag to me. Jackson Dart, he's not throwing darts in this game. 7 picks on the year. Quinshawn Judkins, 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns. That's their identity. You really think they could run through Will Anderson Jr. in that front 7? Absolutely not. They have to be, if they're going to beat Bama, they have to throw the football. They can't rely on Quinshawn Judkins and Zach Evans to carry the load for them. The Rebels' defense is average. They have no fearful players compared to Alabama, so give me Alabama.
I really want to pick Ole Miss here. It would be phenomenal to see an Alabama team with 3 losses. I know they're pretty much, I mean, crazy stuff could happen and they could maybe get back into playoff contention, but it would require a lot. So a 3-loss Alabama to me would be a funny sight to see. They've just been, I mean, I've said this for like the last 4 weeks, and I'm becoming like a broken record. It's the most dysfunctional Saban team I've ever seen. I don't know if it's like NIL stuff that's in too many of these players' heads, and I don't know. I think Saban is over this offseason is going to change his recruiting a little bit because something just isn't clicking despite, the massive talent they have on this team. But as far as the game goes, I actually do think Judkins and Evans, who are a phenomenal duo, maybe the best running back duo in the country, singular personal talent aside, I think they're a phenomenal rushing duo. The Alabama defense is very, very good, especially with the rush, but I mean, this is a team and a coach where throwing is usually top priority, and at the very least, Evans and Judkins, as that duo, give them the opportunity to open up the game and open up the throws for Jackson Dart. So I think we see a bit of a shootout here. It'll make for an entertaining game, but I do think, unfortunately, that Alabama is going to pull this one off. Despite the fact, those players had to be having nightmares. They've lost on Alabama, I should say. 2 games, their 2 biggest games of the season, they have lost on the very last play of the game. So that's nightmare fuel right there. At 3:30, Andy said we don't give Illinois enough coverage. We don't give UCF enough coverage, my guy.
You run the show. You pick that.
I have to be unbiased. I have to be unbiased. But this is the first showing of UCF on our show this year. I say that as a word.
Line of the season.
As they take on ranked Tulane. People wanted College Game Day to go to this game in New Orleans. Didn't get it. But it should still be a pretty good matchup. Andy, who do you think wins this one?
This is going to be a really fun game. These 2 teams both having outstanding seasons. You look at Tulane, 8-1. They were ranked in the college football playoff rankings for the first time in school history last week. Keep that going after winning last week. There was a huge push for Tulane to get game day. I've got a very good buddy that works in the Tulane athletic department that was keeping our group updated on the status of that. But I mean, you look at if we look at the game, these are 2 high-powered offenses, right? You have UCF averaging 35 points a game. You have Tulane averaging 33. They both are really, really good on 4th down as well. UCF converting 48.5% of their 3rd downs, and Tulane converting on 40.5% on their 3rd downs. I think you're right. I think it's gonna be a shootout. Oh, fuck, you said that for the last game. Anyway, this one's going to be a shootout, too. Take the over. If you look at the betting, Tulane getting 1.5. I think UCF has a really good chance of winning this game. I'm playing spoiler here. UCF's they're a top 15 team as far as rushing the ball, running about for about 240 yards per game. Tulane only giving up 127 yards on the ground. That for me is going to be a big matchup. Will UCF's backs be able to get loose, be able to get into space, and pick up some big chunk plays, pick up some big yards for them. I'm going to go with Tulane, though. I'm sorry, Brian. At home, they're 8-1. They're rolling right now. I give them the slight edge in this game. I'm going with Tulane. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. We like unbiased opinions, so.
I mean, but I'm usually wrong, so that probably means bet UCF money line.
Tom, Tulane or UCF?
So Tulane is only favored by 1.5 at home. That should tell you something about UCF. Both teams have good defenses. UCF averages 500 yards of offense a game. They own impressive wins over Cincinnati, who made the college football playoff last year, and at Memphis last week that Brian McArdle was not too confident about. John Plummer, decent quarterback, 7 touchdowns rushing, might I add, 18 total. Isaiah Bowser's an animal. He's an animal. How about R.J. Harvey, Brian? Over 500 rushing yards. Ryan O'Keefe, he's been the go-to receiver. He's been the go-to guy. He has 50 catches on the year. Devod Wilson's a nice defensive back for you guys, 3 picks. Here's the problem. The Green Wave have dominated in conference play. They're undefeated. Michael Pratt completing 2 out of every 3 passes. Tyjae Spears, 10 rushing touchdowns on the season. They have a balanced passing attack. I like their defense with Dorian Williams. 3 players with at least 2 interceptions. How does UCF beat them? Well, outscore them. Simple. Outscore them. And I really think I'm going to do this just out of spite. Since Andy picked Tulane, I'm picking UCF.
I love it. Love a good spite pick. For me, I mean, I have to run with my boys, UCF, obviously. Tulane, I think, is still the slightly better team. I've had questions about how things are going for us all season long. They are starting to get it together. I think a big part of that is Mikey Keene has now pretty much cemented his place as, the go-to starter over Rice Plumlee, who did give us, that run option. But you need to have, in this conference, you need to have a good arm. You need to have a quarterback who can make good plays and make them frequently because, like Andy said, probably going to see, like the game I just said earlier, another shootout here. That tends to happen a lot in the American. So if you have a guy that trusts his legs more than his arms and you're going up against a good team like this, probably not going to work out for you. So I am glad that Mikey Keene is in there. Tommy brought up R.J. Harvey and Isaiah Bowser. R.J. Harvey has been a beast on the ground with us. But as far as Isaiah Bowser goes, he is an absolute bruiser. Not even about this game, but when that kid goes to the draft, I don't think he's going to get much respect. I think he's going to go late rounds, but whoever picks him up is going to get a diamond in the rough. Kid is extremely good on the ground. My favorite running back that we've had in some time. So, yeah, I'm not going to get too much into the stats here. I just got to run with my homeboys in the Knights like Andy did with his Illini. So, going Knights here. In the 7:30, we have Oregon versus Washington. Oregon has just been on a tear, guys. We made fun of them after week 1. We made fun of Bo Nix probably like week 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9. But they've got it together. They're looking good, and playoffs are back in their mindset. So, Andy, is Oregon keeping it rolling over Washington, or does Washington pull an upset here?
No, I have the Ducks in this game. Bo Nix, as much as we talk shit about him, he's completing 73% of his passes, which is fucking insane. 2,495 yards, 22 tutties to 5 interceptions. The Ducks are, they're averaging over 500 yards a game, but so are the Huskies. So I don't think this is a game that Oregon should take lightly at all. This is I don't know if you guys follow Sickos Committee on Twitter, but shout out to them. They are a great follow for college football. They had been begging for a Penix versus Bo Nix matchup, and we got it, ladies and gentlemen. We got it. I think this is going to be absolutely electric. It's going to be another shootout to me. I mean, you're talking about 2 offenses that average over 500 plus a game. Oregon has been on an absolute roll. I give them the edge because they're at home. I think they are like 13.5-point favorites in this game. But I'm going with the Ducks. I don't see Bo Nix slowing down anytime soon. And Ducks, dark horse college football playoff candidate at this point. I know you look back to what happened when they played Georgia, which would not bode well for them if they were to sneak in as the 4 and Georgia being at number 1 in the semifinal. But I don't know. As far as this game goes, I think the Ducks have too much. I do think Washington has a chance. Obviously, we've seen how explosive this offense can be. But I am going to go with the Ducks at home here.
All right, Tom.
Well, Washington, impressive win last week. Bravo, beating number 23 Oregon State 23-21. Michael Penix, again, this is the game of the Big Ten and SEC reject quarterbacks. Both of these quarterbacks have that trend in common. They're both transfers. Michael Penix Jr., over 3,200 passing yards, 23 touchdowns. He's been a beast. Cam Davis, excellent on the ground, 10 touchdowns on the season. Rone Odunze, 850 receiving yards and 6 scores. Are you kidding me? For a Pac-12 receiver who doesn't get much playing time until this year, very, very impressive. Also, how about Jalen McMillan, man? This guy's come out of nowhere. He really has. Michael Penix Jr., the effect is real. He's really, really good. I like Voy Tanufi on that defensive line and Braylon Trice as well. Who thought 2 interior defensive linemen would be combining for 10.5 sacks in the Pac-12? It's possible. But here's the problem. Once again, Oregon, 6-0 in the Pac-12. And be careful what I'm about to say, fellas. Oregon might be a college football playoff contender. Bo Nix might be a Heisman Trophy contender if he continues to play like this. 2,500 passing yards on the season, 22 touchdowns to 5 picks. Andy mentioned the 73% completion percentage. Bo Nix has 13 rushing touchdowns on the ground. 22 plus 13 is 35 total touchdowns through 9 games. You can't ignore that. Troy Franklin, Terrence Ferguson, his tight end is incredible. And defensively, Christian Gonzalez, Trickweezy Bridges, DJ Johnson, the Ducks will win and further cement their path towards the Pac-12 title game. They are college football playoff contenders. Give me the Ducks.
All right. For me, I'm just going to straight up say it. I'm going Ducks here. I've shat on Bo Nix so much that I'm going to give a self-intervention and just give Bo Nix all the credit here for my pick here. The kid is second in the nation in completion percentage, 73.3%. That is just an absurd number. Leads the country and TDs responsible for 36. Like you said, he's got 13 on the ground. Last time we saw these numbers, maybe like what, Tebow, Cam Newton era? And this is Bo Nix we're talking about. I mean, everyone was shitting on him. So, I mean, those numbers are just incredible. What is the big factor in that? Oregon's offensive line. They've only let him be sacked one time. Gave a lot of love to Big Uglies last year. Those offensive lines that were keeping the quarterback safe. This year, haven't been as vocal about it. So, big shout out to the Oregon O-line. I think that sack was in week 1 against Georgia as well. So, they've been flawless in the last 9-10 weeks in a row. So, just phenomenal job by them as well. Nix last week became just the second FBS player in history to have 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns. And what else did he do? He got a receiving touchdown. The guy's just doing everything. He's turned into a video game character. I think everything we said about him turned into bulletin board material. He pinned it all on his locker, and he's just having a day with everyone, with reporters, with people who hated on him. This is Bo Nix's world up there in Eugene right now. And last week against Colorado is his 3rd straight game with at least 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns, 3 weeks in a row. Let's make it 4 weeks in a row. Oregon beats the Huskies. Then in our chase slot, we have our last game of the week. We have Texas taking on number 4 TCU. This game is on here. A lot of people still don't trust Texas, but they are favored by the ESPN FPI analytics. Texas is said to have a 75% chance at winning this game over number 4 TCU. What do you guys think? Andy, is TCU staying in that top 4 spot, or does Texas get an upset here?
I don't know. This is a line that doesn't make sense to me. And normally when you see a line like this that makes 0 sense, you just have to take it. So that is kind of what's racking my brain here. I saw an interesting tweet today. It's from Chris Falica. Since 1979, there have been 6 instances of a team with at least 3 losses being favored over a team 9-0 or better in the regular season. None of the 6 favorites were favored by more than a field goal. So this marks the biggest a 3+ loss team has ever been favored over a 9-0 or better team. Last time this happened came in 2019 when 6-3 Iowa was favored by a field goal over 9-0 Minnesota and won 23-19 at Kinnick. This is also just the 5th time in the CFP era a top 5 team is an underdog to a team not ranked in the top 10, with the last being Oregon at Utah last year when the Utes won 38-7. I don't know. There is a lot to unpack here. We've talked, ad nauseum about how much we love Max Duggan this season on the show. We've talked about Texas a lot as well and how they're a much different team when they have Quinn Ewers, right? If I want to just brag on Duggan a little bit, again, completing 66% of his passes, 2,400 yards on the year, 24 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions. If you look at what he's done on the ground as well, 282 yards and 4 scores there. That doesn't really jump out at you, but for a quarterback, that is pretty damn good through 9 games, showing you his versatility there. TCU is averaging 510 yards per game, really, really balanced as well. 283 through the air, 210 through on the ground. They're putting up 42 points a game. I just don't know if Texas is going to be able to stop this attack. I really don't. If you look at what Texas has been able to do defensively, they're giving up, 21 points a game, which that's not terrible. But I think this TCU team marches into Austin, and I guess it's technically an upset if they are the betting underdog. I don't know. That's weird to say the number 4 team in the nation is an underdog, but I don't know. Like I said earlier, it's like if the line doesn't make sense, you just fucking take it. But I can't in good conscience pick the Longhorns here. I have to take TCU.
All right, Tom.
TCU has beaten 4 ranked opponents this season. That's saying something. They're at number 18 Texas, a 3-loss team, and somehow Texas is favored by 7. I look at Max Duggan, mistake-free QB, 2,400 passing yards, 24 touchdowns through just 2 picks. Kendre Miller has also been a big facilitator in this offense with 1,000 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. TCU has rushed for over 140 yards in every game this season. And when you look at who they have to throw to passing-wise, Quentin Johnson and Darius Davis, great players. D. Winters, good job with those 6.5 sacks. I think where the line comes from, guys, is the Longhorns coming off a 34-27 win on the road against Kansas State last week, and the fact that TCU, the last 3 weeks, they've won by 10 points, but let's be real. They only beat West Virginia by 3. That last touchdown was in garbage time. They had a big explosive play that put them up by 10. TCU's defense has not been great this year. Texas, we know about Quinn Ewers. But who's the real MVP of that offense? It's Bijan Robinson. 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. Xavier Worthy is 9 touchdowns. Jatavion Sanders at the tight end position is incredible. People keep calling it for weeks. TCU won't go undefeated. They won't go undefeated. This is so tough, man. Man, give me... TCU's definitely covering the spread. That I will say. They're definitely covering that spread. But something tells me that Texas is going to win this game.
Ooh.
So I'm
Are you locking it in?
I don't trust them. I don't trust them, though. I just don't trust them. All right, give me TCU by a sliver, an absolute sliver, by like 1 or 2 points.
All right. Yeah, you almost went with Texas there. I could feel it get close. Yeah.
Myself out of it.
For me, listen, we know both quarterbacks have phenomenal talent. Ewers came in with the hype. He does have the talent, but he's still a raw talent. So QB advantage clearly right now is with Max Duggan. Like we said, he can take off on his feet. The guy can run. He's got an arm, and he makes good decisions. He's going to be up against Jalen Ford, linebacker, probably the best linebacker on this Texas team. He's probably going to be spying him all game long. If he does, if Duggan does try to take off on his feet, the guy has 47 solo tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. So he's been all over the field. He's kind of been, the Will Anderson of the season when Will Anderson has not been, or at least, having a much quieter season than last year. So Jalen Ford, huge talent right there in the middle of the field for Texas. But yeah, I still think TCU wins this game. They are dealing with an injury to Duggan's favorite target, Quentin Johnston. Probably going to see shenanigans from the coaches on, it's going to be like Saturday, an hour before the game, before we find out if he's playing or not. That would be a big loss for them if he is out. And then in the rushing game, like you said, Robinson, 1,100 yards, 12 touchdowns. But Kendre Miller on TCU also has 12 touchdowns with over 1,000 yards. So they can match him pretty well there. I think Robinson has an edge over Miller, but to me, that's a wash in the run game. And I don't trust Ewers to do enough and make enough good decisions to beat this TCU team. They are just absolutely rolling under Sonny Dykes. And then, the stat that I have in bold here that I'll end this game on, Texas has only scored 3 points in the second half of the last 2 games. That is just not going to get it done, especially against a team that's top 4 in the nation. So TCU for me is the pick. Although I think it will be close, but I'm going to give them a little bit more than what I would call a sliver that Tom's given them. So I'm going with TCU to win this game. And that is going to wrap up our show for the week. Went a little bit long. Hope everyone made it through the entire episode. Enjoy the games this week. We'll see everyone next week. Be sure to like and subscribe down below. Andy and Tom's links also down there. Subscribe to those as well. Enjoy the games. See everyone for week 12 next week.